Every day, words destroy relationships, ruin reputations, and shatter hearts. We call it gossip, criticism, or just being honest. But 900 years ago, Al-Ghazali wrote something that will change how you think about every word you speak. In his book on the veins of the tongue, he revealed that speech is the battlefield where souls are won or lost. And most of us are losing without even knowing we are in a war. Ghazali was not just any scholar. He was the most respected intellectual of his time, teaching hundreds of students at the most prestigious university in Baghdad. But when he sat down to write his masterwork, The Revival of the Religious Sciences, he dedicated an entire book to something most people consider trivial: the way we use our tongues. He called it the Book of the Veins of the Tongue. And what he discovered will shock you. Ghazali begins with a warning that cuts straight to the heart. He says the tongue is small in size, but immense in its power to commit sin. Most people think they are safe from major sins, because they do not steal, they do not commit adultery, they do not murder. But Ghazali reveals that your tongue commits acts every day that are spiritually equivalent to these crimes. You think you are a good person, but your speech patterns may be destroying your soul one word at a time. The first devastating truth Ghazali exposes is about speaking without knowledge. How many times do you share opinions on social media about topics you have not actually studied? How often do you repeat information you heard somewhere without verifying if it is true? Ghazali teaches that when you speak about something you do not truly understand, you are committing a spiritual crime. Every word spoken without proper knowledge is like throwing an arrow in the dark. You may hit an innocent person and never even know it, but this is just the beginning. Ghazali identifies multiple categories of harmful speech, each more dangerous than the last. There is lying, which he says corrupts not just your relationships, but your very soul. When you lie, you are not just deceiving others. You are training your heart to prefer falsehood over truth. Over time, this makes it impossible for you to recognize divine truth when it comes to you. Then there is backbiting, which Ghazali describes as mentioning something about a person that they would dislike if they were present. Notice he does not say the information has to be false. Even if what you are saying is completely true, if the person would hate to hear it, you are spiritually consuming their flesh. Ghazali uses the exact words from the Quran that compare backbiting to eating the flesh of your dead brother. Every time you talk about someone behind their back, you are spiritually cannibalizing them. Most shocking is what Ghazali reveals about criticism disguised as righteousness. How many times have you criticized someone and justified it by saying, "You are only trying to help them improve"? How often have you pointed out someone's flaws and convinced yourself it was for their own good? Ghazali exposes this as one of the most dangerous forms of speech because it allows you to feel virtuous while committing spiritual murder. He explains that the ego loves to hide behind the mask of righteousness. It whispers to you that you are being helpful, that you are standing up for what is right, that someone needs to tell the truth. But Ghazali reveals the hidden test. Ask yourself honestly, are you speaking to benefit the person you are criticizing, or are you speaking to make yourself feel superior? Are you truly trying to help them, or are you trying to establish your own righteousness by pointing out their failures? The most devastating part is what Ghazali says about the spiritual consequences. He teaches that harmful speech does not just damage relationships. It creates a barrier between you and divine guidance. Every word of gossip, every harsh criticism, every lie creates spiritual static that makes it harder for you to hear the voice of truth. You become spiritually deaf to wisdom because your heart is cluttered with the noise of meaningless chatter. Ghazali reveals that people who engage in harmful speech patterns develop what he calls a diseased heart. The symptoms are unmistakable. You become addicted to talking about others. You find yourself unable to have a conversation without mentioning someone who is not present. You feel compelled to share every piece of interesting information you hear, regardless of whether it is beneficial or harmful. You lose the ability to simply be quiet and listen. But perhaps the most terrifying insight Ghazali provides is about how speech affects your final judgment. He teaches that on the day of judgment, you will be confronted not just with your actions, but with every single word you spoke during your lifetime. Every casual comment, every offhand remark, every piece of gossip will be presented as evidence. The people you talked about will be given the right to take from your good deeds as compensation for the harm you caused them through your speech. Imagine discovering that the casual conversation you had last week about your neighbor cost you years of spiritual progress. Imagine learning that the critical comment you made about your coworker canceled out months of prayers and charity. Ghazali is not speaking metaphorically. He is describing the actual spiritual mechanics of how speech affects your eternal destiny. So what is the solution? Ghazali does not simply tell you to stop talking. He provides a complete system for transforming your speech patterns. The first step is developing what he calls mindful speech. Before you open your mouth, ask yourself 3 questions. Is what I am about to say true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? If you cannot answer yes to all 3, then remain silent. The second step is understanding the spiritual purpose of speech. Ghazali teaches that your tongue was given to you for specific reasons: to remember God, to seek knowledge, to teach beneficial wisdom, to reconcile between people, to comfort those who are suffering, and to speak words that bring people closer to truth. Any speech that does not serve one of these purposes is, at best, a waste of time, and, at worst, spiritually destructive. Ghazali also provides practical techniques for breaking harmful speech patterns. When you feel the urge to gossip, redirect that energy into prayer or remembrance of God. When someone tries to engage you in backbiting, either change the subject or defend the person being discussed. When you catch yourself about to criticize someone, pause and ask whether this criticism will actually help them, or whether it will just make you feel better about yourself. One of the most powerful practices Ghazali recommends is what he calls speech fasting. Just as you fast from food to strengthen your spiritual discipline, periodically fast from unnecessary speech. Spend entire days speaking only when absolutely required. You will be amazed at how much mental energy you are wasting on meaningless chatter, and how much clearer your thinking becomes when you eliminate verbal noise from your life. Ghazali warns that transforming your speech patterns is not easy because the tongue is connected to the ego, and the ego fights desperately to maintain its habits. You will find yourself making excuses for why this particular piece of gossip is acceptable, why this specific criticism is necessary, why this lie is justified. The ego is incredibly creative at finding reasons why the rules do not apply in your particular situation, but Ghazali provides hope. He teaches that as you purify your speech, you will notice profound changes in your inner life. Your mind will become clearer because it is no longer cluttered with the mental residue of harmful conversations. Your relationships will improve because people sense they can trust you not to talk about them behind their backs. Your spiritual perception will sharpen because you are no longer creating barriers between yourself and divine guidance. Most importantly, you will discover that when you stop using your tongue to tear others down, you naturally begin using it to build them up. Instead of looking for flaws to criticize, you start noticing virtues to praise. Instead of spreading information that causes division, you begin sharing knowledge that brings people together. Instead of using words as weapons, you start using them as tools for healing. Ghazali concludes his teaching with a powerful reminder. He says that on the day of judgment, you will wish you had remained silent about many things you spoke about, but you will never regret remaining silent about things you chose not to say. The words you do not speak in this life may be the very thing that saves you in the next. The battlefield is in your mouth. Every conversation is a choice between building souls or destroying them. Ghazali has given you the map to victory. The question is whether you will have the courage to fight the war that matters most, the war for the purity of your own speech. Because in the end, the tongue that kills without a sword can also heal without medicine. The choice is yours, one word at a time.